Hey board gamers, BJ from Game Gumbo here, back in the Gumbo pot, this time taking a look at Vrahode, Age of Prophecy, coming to Kickstarter pretty soon. I just got to play the opening scenario, Bin in the Trail, which is part of the campaign. I did it solo. I want to give you some thoughts, my pros and cons, so that you can get ready for the Kickstarter campaign yourself. Let's get right to that Game Toppers LLC table. I'll show you a little bit about the system with an overview. I'll tell you my pros and my cons, and also give you a little bit of lagniappe. All right, a couple of quick caveats before I get started. This is a first impressions video, not a review. This is not a paid preview or anything like that. This is me playing a solo experience through that first scenario and giving you my thoughts on how the combat system and everything works. So there's a lot more to explore in the campaign, so keep an eye out for that. Number two, this is a beautiful copy, as you can see, but it's still a prototype review copy prior to the campaign. There could be, and probably will be, some changes before or during the campaign, or even after the campaign, that could affect this. So I'm just showing you what I have, but and as you can see, it's very nice. But I want to make sure that you understand that you need to keep an eye out on the campaign to see what changes during there. That could include rules, or the production, or even some of the mechanics. Jeff Irving has been working on this Vrahode world for many, many years. I mean, from what I understand, decades. And so it's a very, very big world. But in this particular instance, it's a game system, a tabletop game system that's allowing players to play as 4 different characters and exploring this campaign, managing their life, their spells, the magic system that's inside this game system, and also growing the character as you go through the story. In some ways, it's kind of a typical dungeon crawl that you're going to be going over a map and attacking monsters, but there's some hints that there's this very large story, or even a larger story throughout the world that could be explored. One of the fun things about this is that it brings in not only this world that Jeff's been working on for years, but he brought in a professional writer to help him flesh out the story. Sean Dressler, who has written some books, including one that's in my library. Sean, I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to get to it. It's not based on that series of books, but you can tell that there's some passion and care that's built into the story itself as you explore it. Time to talk about the gameplay. Really quick though. The gameplay is one of these where it's a dungeon crawl, as I said, and the game system comes with these foldable maps. They're 2-sided. I'm trying not to spoil too much here, so I'm just showing you one side of the map of the first part, and I'm trying to keep some of the hidden stuff out of there. But basically, you've seen this in other games. I tend to like maps like this that are made of these fold-out either books or maps like this. They're lightweight and they're easy to use, and you've got these beautiful minis. Up to 4 characters are going to be played, and of course, you've got the baddies. And I don't mind showing you the one from the very first scenario. You're going to see a lot of these in that first play. And so they're going to be starting on the map on one side, the baddies will be on the other, and the gameplay works very simply. The characters are going to pull some initiative tokens out of a bag, and that's going to set the initiative for the combat that round. There are some ways of manipulating that. So let's say there was 3 characters and the baddie, and those are the ones assigned. If you don't like where you are, let's say you're the 12 and your partner is the 5 and the baddie is the 7, you can spend some of the currency in the game called fatigue that'll help you jump up to a higher spot. So you're not locked in. That's one of the things I do like about it. Now that the initiative has been set, the players are going to go through turns. Now, there's no GM or DM in this game. This is going to be where the players are controlling the baddies, but the AI system is very simple. It gives you check downs as to what's going to happen for the character. And of course, the player characters have a lot of agency as to what they're going to do. These are not your standard tropes. A lot of these characters are going to fit the things that we've seen, tanks and wizard users and fast people. But there's a lot of mixture, a lot of mix and match there too. And that's one of the things I like. During your turn, you're going to spend a couple of action points to move, or to use one of your inherent traits, or even use the skills that you've been built up. So now that we've seen what the map looks like and how the players are going to move around, let's take a quick look at how that system is used on the player boards. Okay, I've got a representation of the player board here. One of the nice things I like, it's these stand-up trays. These trays have a little overlay that goes like this. And as you can see, it creates some lift so that you can see your player board very well. The dashboard is going to be outfitted with, of course, your player character. In this particular instance, I pulled out Eclipse. Eclipse is a spark, and you can see all the different stats for them, and they give you these handy dandy little markers all in the right color. So I know that Eclipse is a 7, so I would just mark 7 there, and I do this in body, and I do the same thing for spirit, mind, focus, and presence. That's the 5 kind of parts to every character, and what skills you build up on those allows you to do certain special little actions, skill actions, or different things like that. And so these will be tracked here. And then, of course, the life and the movement will be tracked here. Movement is obviously important so that you can move around on the map. Life, of course, we all need to do that. And you'll use these little tiny markers here. Kind of just fit it in. Let's say that that Eclipse starts with 14. We'll fit that 4 there, and we'll fit this 10 here. And let's say the movement for Eclipse is an 8, so we'll mark that there. So, and there's different ways of upgrading those during the game, and they've got lots of tokens and different little cool little tiny dice that'll temporarily modify it. So that's nice. You've got your fatigue, the mitigation, and the skills. And the skills is what gives you these crystals here. The more skills you have, the more crystals you can have. And using the crystals is sort of like that little magic point or economic point that you're going to use to actually trigger some of the ones that are not inherent, some of the ones that you actually have to use. So that's a fun little system that we're going to talk about. Fatigue is another one of those things where the worse your fatigue is, the more outlandish things happen. Of course, the campaign is too big. I don't know all the things that are going to happen with fatigue, but there start to become some negative modifiers. That's basically setting up the skills and everything on the hero, the dashboard. We'll go like this, handy dandy little reference there. A little bit more about the character on the back, including what the traits are. All the equipment is listed on the bottom, and that's one of the things I like. It comes with these 2 little areas for you to put your backpack and to put your equipped items. And I've got those represented for Eclipse already. We've got the skills that the Eclipse starts out with. These are the mind skills. Of course, there's 5 different types, but those skills will just go right there in the mind. Easy reference. And then for the ones that are equipped, like a staff and the cloth armor, those would go right into your equipped items, while a fire starter kit, which you're not going to use for every battle, right? That would go into your backpack. So nice the way everything is laid out there. You can actually take your character out. You need to, do dinner or something like that, and then put everything back up. It's very simple to move the standees and the map. Just take a quick picture of the map, move your little box with everything already set up. So it's easy to do. I actually couldn't do both parts back to back, but I was able to move it back and forth and get that scenario 1 knocked out. All right, so how does it work? When the players meet up with a particular character, by initiative, each of the characters, the heroes and the bad guys, are going to use their points either in movement, special actions, inherent abilities, or just plain old attacks. And the combat system is pretty simple. You got a D20, and you're going to be rolling that D20 against a certain roll. It's that roll, that number, or lower, which is a little different from what I'm used to from old school D&D, but I understand that that's the way some systems work. So in this particular instance, if I needed a 14 to hit, and I've got the 14 here, it would be good. But it's modified by this little modifier dice. I like this part. It goes from -3 all the way up to +3. And you have a base damage you'll do. So for instance, Eclipse's staff does 5, let's say. It's either 4 or 5 if I remember right. And then you can modify it to do either up or down. And of course, the bad guy has particular ways of mitigating that also. The adder that you face in that first scenario has a way to mitigate some of those. Yeah, it's got a mitigation of 2. So it goes up and down, different ways to attack it. It's kind of a puzzle that is a fun challenge every time you come up with a different thing you got to take out. I want to talk about 3 things that I really enjoyed about this game. Number 1, the strong storyline. I told you that the designer has been working on this world for many, many, many years, and then brought in this professional writer to help flesh it out, and it shows. And in the first opening scenario, you get this background that gives you a hint as to what the larger campaign is going to be about, and it just doesn't feel like some throwaway fluff. It feels like someone had a lot of passion in putting together that story. So it makes me kind of excited to see what's coming down the pike. Second thing I like is it doesn't feel like a cookie cutter world. It is a unique characters. This Eclipse here, this kind of centaur looking person. But that, as you can see with all of the starting characters, and I don't know how much more there's going to be out there with all the different parts of the project that could come out, but you can see that none of them look like your standard fantasy tropes. So if you like unique characters and unique issues, then that's going to be something that should be attractive to you. And the third thing I liked is that combat system. So the dice rolls and all of the mitigation, it kind of appeals to the Euro side of me. Ways to what kind of equipment can I get? What kind of placement can I make on the map? Which order of operations do I want to go through when we're attacking the monsters to maximize our ability to get hits and to do damage while minimizing what's going to happen to us? I like that system a lot. I'm really intrigued by this mitigation die, or the modifier die, and the mitigation system. Got to talk a little bit about pros and cons, right? So maybe prawns, as the board boys like to say. One of the prawns, one of the pro and cons, is the map system itself. I told you I like those book style maps. The only thing that my only complaint is, the map is a little bit hard to read, at least in that first scenario. So cleaning that up a little bit. I'd love for the squares to be even a little bigger. These characters take up a big chunk of it. So cleaning that up, maybe making it a little bigger for the size that we have would be okay, because these are beautiful miniatures. I mean, this little sun wash that we have on these miniatures is gorgeous. There's lots of details, so I want to show that off whenever we play. Cleaning up the map a little bit, and also, I got to be honest, I didn't really like these little white cubes that you use to track. Every time I bumped the board, these little white cubes wanted to go flying. I didn't have so much trouble with the other cubes here. These seem to be pretty easy, but the little white ones were very fiddly. And I'm hoping that if they get some feedback in the campaign, that part can be improved a little bit. And one more that's kind of a prawn, but it's probably not going to be for anybody else but me, is that I found that first scenario really challenging, pretty tough actually. So I'm kind of intimidated at that point as to how much further I could actually get in there without getting some help from some other people that are more experienced than I am. So that might be something that appeals to you. A solo challenge, a solo dungeon crawl that's really challenging with a big giant world with unique characters. Hey, that's a lot. That's actually sounding like a pro, but for me, it was a pretty tough experience. And I promised you a little bit of Lagniappe, so let's get that right away. So I showed off parts of that first map. There's a lot more in here. This map is double-sided. Inside this box is another 3 maps. All of those are double-sided. So that's a lot of content. That's 8 maps right there, just right out of the box. But when I went on the website to do a little research, I found out that the designer has hundreds and hundreds of scenarios that over the years have been fleshed out and ready to go. So I feel like if the project is a success and people like what they get, there's going to be some things going on. It's not just going to be these 2 monsters that we're going to see. We're not just going to see this Wisteris. We're going to see a lot more content that could come out. And the website promises a lot of that content. But again, as an indie publisher, it depends on the support that they're going to get. So that's a little bit of Lagniappe. This is not just a one map, one system like Unmatched, my favorite system. This is where inside the box, you're going to get a number of maps and an overarching storyline and a lot of different characters. So I like that. All right, so that's an inside look at our experiences on the solo side of Vrahode, Age of Prophecy from Weathervane Games. Not a paid preview or anything, just giving you my thoughts about what it was like playing this prototype copy. I want to thank Weathervane Games for giving us a chance to experience this. I don't play solo games very often, but I enjoyed my experiences in that first scenario, and hopefully my experiences help you to take a look at this project. So make sure you click on the links inside the video so that you can be notified when the Kickstarter campaign goes live. That way you can see for yourself what this game is all about. Until next time, Laissez, bon temps rouler.